Hello and welcome to Better Than Yesterday. Today I'm joined by my very good friend, Daniel Hammond, as always, and we wanted to have a bit of a more unstructured conversation. This is actually the first of a series that we're going to be doing where it's just podcast style conversations, the theme being Better Than Yesterday, and just fruitful conversations for young people and me getting into everything that's going on in the world and maybe somewhat in a more specific context to living in South Africa and Namibia and what's happening on this side of the world, man. But Daniel, it's been way too long since we've done one of these. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, no. Firstly, hi Mike. Hope you're doing well, man. And yeah, it's been a while. It's always so difficult for us to align our schedules. For me to get like back to Rehoboth, where we usually or I usually shoot my videos from. But yeah, I'm glad we got the opportunity to get a video out today, and I'm just looking forward to having a conversation and hearing your thoughts about what's happening in the world right now and how we as young people can just learn from it. But yeah, otherwise I've been doing well. Studies has been hectic, coming up with the last part of this year. Just have to, finish up strong. So how has it been on your side?
Glad to hear, brother. No, it's been a lot of things going on my side as well. Also finishing up the year of studies. For me, I'll be done with the done with my studies actually in December,
Mm-hmm.
and I've actually also started a basically like a full-time employment that I'm doing at the moment, which has been quite hectic. It's actually in my field of study, which is great. So I've been learning a lot,
Mm-hmm.
gaining a lot of experience, which is valuable. But it's been that adaptation, going from being like an online student to being someone who's like working full time, and I still actually I'm still busy studying at the same time. It's
Yeah.
quite hectic, very you have so much time as an online student. I think that's one thing that's been really nice. I'm sure a lot
Mm.
of people listening can relate. Universities ever since COVID have been quite a different place. I
Yeah.
know some universities here in Cape Town, for example, they require you to come in full time, but a lot
Mm-hmm.
of them don't these days. I think a lot of people are working on like either a hybrid system now, or maybe fully online. So yeah, that sort of lifestyle. I've been living it for the last 3 years, which I enjoyed a lot. But now,
Yeah.
big adaptation to that sort of like 9 to 5. You could say I'm actually working like 7 to 4 these days.
Mm.
So yeah, early starts, but been enjoying it, brother.
Sure.
Yeah, it's been like you say, it's been a while since we've recorded a video together.
Mm.
But yeah, I think this is a cool way that we can just the people watching can maybe get to know us and our thoughts a bit better, and we can actually have some genuine conversations about what's going on, man. So yeah, let me know. I know you wanted to get into the topic of actually gratitude and
Mm.
being grateful as a young person. What's your perspective on that, and what made you want to talk about that today?
Yeah, so the other day I was like sent on an errand. So I was driving around a bit more of the informal areas here in Rehoboth and as well as today, and I just noticed there's so many people that live in like way worse situations that we do, that you and I do. And it's so easy to get caught up in, I actually want like a better position in life. I want to be more comfortable. I want like the family to have more money, or these sort of things. I want a car. I want the latest PC, or it's just you're always chasing after more. But
For
it's
sure,
cool
man.
to get to a point where you stop and you realize and you look around and see that there's actually a lot of people that would love and would be so fortunate to be in your position. Just if you go and look at like where they stay and what they have, they really don't have as much as we do. So there's already so much going on. And once you get to that place of gratitude, you can like slow down and say that I've got enough. So why do I need like more? Yes, it's important to like work and be ambitious and want more, but just really like get to a point where you're already appreciating what you currently have. Yeah, so that's just
It's good, man.
how I, sort of got reminded of being grateful once again.
It's good, man. Yeah, it's funny. When you spoke about that, it makes me think. In South Africa, and I think Namibia is somewhat the same.
Mm,
we live in quite a unique place because you have like this big, gap
Gap
between
year.
like the middle class, let's say, and then those who are living in poverty. And
Mm.
here in Cape Town, for example, you could literally drive from where you're living, and it's this nice like area. It's like relatively safe. Everything's fine. Then you drive like 10 minutes in this direction, and then people are living in like a full-on squatter camp. Like it's
Mm.
poverty like you won't see. So I think that's something that's quite unique about living in I think in Africa in general. A lot of Africa is
Mm.
like that in that there's such a gap between those who are living well and those who aren't, and we actually live right next to each other. Sometimes you can see parts of Cape Town that makes you think like, whoa, this is a third world country, and other times, you see like the waterfront, for example, that's so developed. So that's
Mm.
an interesting perspective. I'm not sure if it's like that in other places in the world. I'm not, I think you drive around like America and maybe in some of those countries in Europe, the unemployment rate is so low, so you won't
Mm.
really see that kind of thing. But I think, like you said, that's what actually allows us to have that perspective. Um, Definitely, even when I was doing a job working as like doing waitering and that kind of stuff, the people
Yeah.
that I was working with
Mm.
were like supporting a full family, off of that waitering like income,
Salary. Yeah.
which is
Sure.
crazy, and they were, going to live in the townships and so on. And these are amazing people that you get to meet, but it really does change your perspective, and it definitely makes you grateful for what you have. Yeah, living literally 10 minutes away, but, maybe a lot more comfortably. So I
Mm.
think very important, man, to always have that perspective. And even if things are going tough, let's say you maybe even live in like, an area that's not quite as
Developed yet.
developed, or maybe, yeah,
Mm.
your life is just, in a bit of a downward spiral. Sometimes,
Mm.
you just want to focus on what there is to be grateful for. Because even if things are going like bad, there's always something that you can be grateful for.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's when you start to get depressed, and that's when things go wrong. Is when you focus on maybe the wrong things. So
Mm.
yeah, Ben, very very good point that you made there. I think you should always focus on what you can be grateful for. Start to list those out. I mean, we always talk about journaling. I think that's a good way to do it. Hey man, it's just writing down, making a list of like things that you are grateful for in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and even just being able to, slow down and sort
Mm,
of take a step back from your like day-to-day life, because sometimes it gets so fast-paced when you stop and or when you go to bed at night, you're just thinking about what can I do like better tomorrow to like earn
mm,
more or to get into a better position. But once you slow down and you just sort of like appreciate how far you've come already, like what you've accomplished, and even if you slow down or like when you're journaling or you're just thinking about life in general, looking back at what you've done in the past years, and you see that you could have been doing more, you've made mistakes, you can start to rectify it now and start improving on that. And even just to get into like what's occurring like currently, zooming
mm.
out into a more global perspective, this war between Israel and
Yeah.
what is it, Iran? Uh,
Palestine, actually. Yeah.
Palestine, yeah, Palestine, with like what's the people call, like the society or this like group that's currently like launching all these attacks, Hamma or something like that, Hamas.
Hamas. Hamas.
Yeah, Hamas. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just it allows us to also get to a place in realizing that even though our countries have so many problems, there might be corruption, load shedding in South Africa, high unemployment. These
Mm,
are these are big problems, yes, but there's worse that's going on out there, like where you can literally lose your life in an instant just because of this war that's happening, and it's
fair.
not in your control. So even just realizing that and looking at the beautiful
Good.
things that can occur in our country or that currently is there, like in Namibia, I would say there's a lot of peace. There might be tensions like between governments or like the different parties, and people could be like arguing a lot, but it never gets to a place where there's like masses of people like dying at one time, or where there's another country
Sure.
like attacking ours. So yeah, we have to appreciate those things because we could have easily been in those situations as well where we would have to like take up arms and also like fight and like defend our lives and our family members.
Yeah, man, it's interesting. Yeah, we've been very blessed to never live through like a period of war, especially
Mm-hmm.
in our countries, and not in our lifetimes. But yeah, and I must say, like, I don't know about you. Let me know what your thoughts are. But I also know, it kind of felt like we'd entered this period of peace.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's never like 100% peace in the world. That world
Yeah.
peace has never been like fully achieved. But
Mm-hmm.
for quite a few years growing up, it kind of felt like there wasn't really much going on. But you look at the last couple of years, and there's war going on there in Ukraine as well,
Yeah,
and now
still going
obviously
on as well.
what's happening in Israel. It's quite scary to see, and it's you don't want it to start like leveling up past that. What's
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts on that? What do you think is like happening in the world at the moment that there's maybe more things like that going on?
Yeah, so what I'm currently aware of is like the tensions between Russia and Ukraine, which could even like spiral like and all these oil battles that can
Yeah.
occur. And then yeah, like you said, what's happening in Israel. So a lot of the times what happens and that like what I sort of realize is there's this problem between like propaganda. There's like media feeding all of us like these different
Mm,
perspectives because you can go and watch Al Jazeera now. They're more on like Palestine side, and then you can go and look
mm,
at BBC News, CNN, and then they're more like on Israel side. So that's also where these clashes like occur, and
yeah.
I think even like the tensions that there were between America and I think it's South Korea at like one point, or is it not? No, North Korea, I think.
North Korea, yes. Yes.
Yeah, so there's always like tensions going on, but what could be like a really difficult or a more like complicated situation that we can go into like locally, this can be like through elections and like what's going to happen between that, because there's like a lot of like talks as well of like making a difference. But what I see is also like South Africa's also struggling currently, like economically, and they're saying like the country might fold. And so there's all these things that you can look at. But
Mm,
then again, there's also good happening, and like you see how the countries like come together, especially now in this World Cup where they're supporting this rugby team. And yeah, you
yes,
can
yes.
you see how then like we can work together. But yeah, so just to answer your question, there's quite a lot happening. But yeah, those two situations I think is currently what I'm mostly aware of.
Definitely, bro, definitely. Yeah, I think it's good to um, bring it back to a local context for sure. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think taking away point is we'll definitely keep those people in our prayers. Obviously, you never want to see like that kind of thing going on in the world.
Hmm.
So yeah, all the prayers going out to those countries that are going through those difficult times. But yeah, man, I
Yeah.
think an interesting thing to get into. Yeah, definitely a local issue and also very relevant to young people.
Hmm.
Is like the issue of unemployment, man.
Unemployment. Yeah.
Here in South Africa, I know we've got an unemployment rate. I think it's the unofficial rate is like almost over 50%. The
Hmm.
official rate is more. It's like in between 40 and 50. But yeah, I can even look at my friends around me, and
Hmm.
even myself, not too long ago, being unemployed, and yeah, what
Hmm.
I think we can have a conversation just on some of the ways that us young people, because there's always two ways you could look at it. Either you could just be like, this country sucks, I'm gonna leave and go somewhere else, or you could try and like work on it. And I
Hmm.
think that's more of a fruitful conversation to have. Is like, how can we, as young South Africans, young Namibians, actually try to improve the situation, man? Um, yeah, what's the situation like in Namibia with young people and employment?
Yeah, so I would say it's quite the same, whereas unemployment rates are also really high. For a long time, it was also just like along youth, but now you'll see that there's also a lot of adults that are unemployed. I wouldn't want to give a figure now because I would be lying if I gave one specifically. But so what happens is that you'll like graduate, and then after you've graduated, you struggle to find a job. Obviously, because there's this issue of, having experience and like
Yeah.
needing to get the job. So yeah, there's a lot of situations like that. But what I've also realized is that there still is opportunities, and like you say, sometimes we need to work in a way of creating them, like have constructive conversations
Mm.
with other young like groups of people, and see if we can't start like a business. And even if it seems that like buying power is weak within Namibia or South Africa, then try and figure out a way to get local products being like exported out into other countries, because there's a lot that we have to offer. So we have to get to a point where we're more creative with like what we come up with, and also getting to a point where even if we're going out of the country to seek employment, then just like feeding the money back into our economy in some or other way. Like we have to
It's good, man. Yeah.
become like prideful and
Yes.
prideful about like our country, and like as a Namibian, you would want to see your country going forward and look away from just like my personal space, like me getting into a better position in life, but actually like building it up for the next generations. But what I can say is that here in Namibia, there's like the future is looking good with the discovery of oil and gas and green hydrogen as well. So there's like a lot of improvements happening now in our infrastructure. I think in this last quarter, within our like financial, like the financial side of things, like our economy, there's actually been around 400,000 or like 400 million, yeah, Namibian dollars, or yeah, and being poured into the country, like foreign investment
Mm.
to sort of get ready for what's to happen. And I also read up that in 2030, that's when we expect our first oil and gas products to be going offshores into other countries to being like exported. So it's
That's
it's
very
looking
positive,
pretty
man.
good. Yeah.
That's very positive. Sure. I mean, yeah, looking at the oil prices here in South Africa, for petrol, it'd be
Mm,
great if we could start getting like buying from a country a lot closer by. I'm not.
mm-hmm.
I think that's also a problem worldwide at the moment. Is the oil prices at the moment are so high. I think that's also due to the
Mm,
tensions going on up in the Middle East. But yeah, man, that's great to hear. I'm glad. Like I think when I was there in Namibia, I could also sense that the country was sort of on the rise. It felt like you go to Namibia and you just see like there's so much potential.
mm-hmm.
In because it's still. I'm sure most people would be fine with me saying this. Is that Namibia is still behind South Africa in terms of its development,
Mm-hmm.
but there's the potential where if it was built up to the same level, Namibia could be just as big a
Mm,
tourist destination, just as big of a producer of products and consumer goods. So, yeah, but definitely that potential is something that we hopefully can be a part of, and contribute towards. I
mm-hmm.
was gonna say on that issue of
Yeah.
unemployment, I think, like you say, I think it's good to be patriotic about your country. Yeah, like I said, you can
Mm-hmm.
always have that mentality of like, cool, I'm gonna dip as soon as I can, and sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's easier to think
Yeah.
like, oh, we can go to this other country and things will be better there, but yeah, I think you have to realize that the grass isn't always greener as well, man. Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, be grateful for what we actually have here, the quality of life that we can still enjoy. And I was gonna say, I think for young people,
Mm-hmm.
one of our goals as well should be to actually create employment. So I know both of us are actually interested in
Yeah.
entrepreneurship and starting our own businesses. Thankfully, that's not something that's too difficult to do in South Africa and Namibia. There's always a process that you have
Mm-hmm.
to go through of starting your own business, but it's not like there's too many restrictions. I know in the UK, for
Mm-hmm.
example, to start your own business, there's a lot of restrictions that you have to get past before you can actually get your business off the ground. Whereas in South Africa, and I know you mentioned it's the same in Namibia, there's not half as many restrictions. So if you've got a good idea, then you should run with it. And if you can then start employing people under you, that's going to be good for you first of all, but it's going to be good for the country as a whole. So this is the kind of mindset that we should have, and yeah, we should look to actually bring up other people with us. That it's that thing of not being too selfish in our, we all want to be successful, but it's better to bring other people along with you than to just you reaching the top and you
Mm-hmm.
sitting on the top looking down on everyone else. You want to bring other people up with you. So yeah, I think another thing that we've spoken about before, man, that is also a good thing for young people. I'm not sure what your thoughts are on this, bro, but it's even I see so much potential in like social media, like what we're doing right now, YouTube videos and podcasting. It's kind of an untapped market in South Africa
Mm-hmm.
and Namibia as well. There is definitely people doing it, young people doing it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's also a way that young people can start to generate income for themselves. Maybe if they are in that situation where they're unemployed, is to
Mm-hmm.
start making an income through social media and online ways of doing that, man. What are your thoughts on
Mm-hmm.
that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because, like you said, it is an untapped market currently, and not a lot of people are on this trend. So even if you, as a young person, get onto it now, like early, while while it's still an industry that's building up, you'll be at the forefront of it, and then it
Yep.
might not happen as fast as you'd like, but later on you'll see that it's going to bear fruits for all of the effort that you've put into. And yeah, I agree with even creating employment and looking at ways of doing it. A lot of the times, we give these responsibilities like to the government, but there's
Mm-hmm.
also like a lot that's in our control and like what we can do. So it's definitely good to cultivate a mindset of helping ourselves because in the past there's been
It's good, bro.
this mindset of having like this victim mentality where it's like, no, I'm in a bad spot, like that just happened to me, there's nothing I can do about it. But just we should just allow ourselves to you know get out of this victim mentality and see that we can actually help ourselves. And another thing that I would want to talk about is, yeah, with this comes like being responsible with the talents that you've got or the opportunities that you've been blessed with, and just using it to the best of your ability and utilizing on those opportunities, like not taking it for granted. That's where gratitude can come in again. And yeah, being a good steward of
Mm.
what you've been like born
Mm.
into, the
Yeah,
cards that
man.
have been dealt to you. Yeah, so even yeah.
No, for sure, for sure.
Mm.
What would you say is your definition of being a good steward?
Sure, that's a good question, and I know we usually say that when you don't know exactly how to answer it. But I would say my definition is just about being disciplined with what you have and not not wasting it, like looking at ways to accumulate on what you've already been blessed with. So let's say you you're fortunate to get a good education and you're in a position where you can study further, let's say get tertiary education, then go for that qualification. And once you've got that qualification, try and apply it by, getting employment or starting up something with the knowledge that you've gained. And a lot of the times we look at what's out of our control and what we can't do, and we just see that things aren't necessarily going our way, like the opportunities aren't coming. Like I've been applying for this job and I haven't been called for an interview. What we should realize is like build up information so and build up the skills so that whenever that opportunity
Very good.
arises, you're ready for it. and you can capitalize on it. So, yeah, being a good steward of what you have, just to sum it up, is to, you know, take care of it and use it in a way that it can add value to the lives of your family and even further on.
Yeah, and I think there's a story in the Bible that is a good example of that, bro. It was one of the parables that Jesus actually spoke about, and I think the word he used was even good stewardship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, each there was three men that were each given. The one was given. I'm gonna be paraphrasing now, but basically, the crux of the story is that there was a master, and he had his workers, and he gave the first guy like five,
Mm-hmm.
let's say rand. We'll say in this example, he gave the other guy 2 rand, and then he gave the other guy 1 rand, and he said basically, I'm gonna go away for a few months. Try and grow this money while I'm away, and take care of it as best you can. And basically, what the first two guys did is they used that money, they like invested it in something, and the first guy
Mm-hmm.
by the time the master came back, he had 10 rand, and the other guy had four, so they both had doubled what they were given. So that was an example of being a
Mm-hmm.
good steward. They were
Mm-hmm.
given something, and then using that, they actually made more. But then
Yeah.
the other worker who was only given 1 rand, he buried it underground, and then when the master came back, he still had the 1 rand. And you can say,
Yeah.
maybe that wasn't a bad strategy from that guy because at least he didn't lose it.
He didn't lose
But
it, yeah.
that's that's not a good way to live life. They say,
Mm.
yeah, taking risks is quite important. So you want to, yeah, that guy in the story
Mm-hmm.
basically was an example of what not to do, and he wasn't a good steward with what he was given because he didn't grow it in any way. He just kept it. He didn't like take that and make it into something new and beautiful. So yeah, man, very interesting topic. I think that's sure a very important thing for young people, and something we should strive to be is good stewards, man. Um, I wanted to also talk, bro, simply on. I know we often have conversations about like our ambitions in life. As young men, you're often thinking
Mm-hmm.
ahead in terms of your career and like what you want to achieve, and maybe even like assets that you want to have in the future. So, um, what is your perspective? Has your perspective changed recently with regards to should you just be striving for assets and money and that kind of stuff, or is there maybe something else that we should be striving for as young men and young people in general? What should we be looking for in the next 5 years? Because I know my perspective has changed quite a bit. When I first got out of school,
Mm-hmm.
we had this vision of being like very successful in the next like few years. But you start to realize, and
Yeah.
this ties in with the original topic of gratefulness, is that um, assets aren't always like what's going to make you happy. So
Mm-hmm.
what would you offer up as like a replacement in terms of searching, instead of just maybe monetary wealth? Like what else should we be looking for?
Yeah, so I think it would be then investing in friendships, like relationships with other people, like your close friends. It doesn't have to
It's good, man.
be like 100 friends that you need. You can have like five close friends that you like always investing in, and or just yeah, having a good conversation or relationship with them, like through conversations and building them up, investing in their lives through encouragement. And then as well, like most importantly, relationship with God. Like I would say there's a lot of value that comes out of that, even if you don't believe in God, like there is a higher power, and just believing in him. Like recently I've been doing more devotions and spending more time like with the Bible, and like you just see that it gives you life, and there's so much worth that comes from it. And then finally, relationship with your friend, like your family, and yeah, finding a life partner, someone that you can like have children with and like live a life with. That's very important. And yeah, just also remembering to live a balanced life, like enjoy what you have, go on hikes, like explore, like do these little things that really like add value to your life and that you're passionate about. That's what I would say. But coming back to, has my perspective on life changed? Yes, it has. But I'm still like as ambitious. It's just I've learned that you have to be, that life doesn't happen really like very fast. It doesn't go according to plan all the time. There's gonna be so many turns and like different paths that you have to take to get to where you want to go. Uh, yeah, but just getting to a place where I would say I can improve the next person's life and just make it a little bit better.
Amen, bro. Yeah, it's definitely an answer that I'm still looking for. Reason being
Mm,
why I asked you. But I think you mentioned
yeah.
some really good things there, bro. For real.
Mm,
Great to hear your perspective on all of those things. I agree. I mean, I think relationships are super important. I think your relationship with God is super important. Those are the kind of things that are going to bring like meaning and fulfillment into your life. Just to add on that, one thing I've heard recently that was quite good. It's actually one of the I've been reading Jordan Peterson's book. It's called Beyond
mm,
Order, and one of the things he speaks about there is basically aligning yourself with basically. So one of the rules in his book is that you should aim at the highest possible goal,
mm-hmm,
and then align yourself in a way so that you can start moving forward towards that goal. And that's basically a good way to go about your life, is aim
mm,
at like the highest possible thing that you can achieve. So we might have slightly different perspectives on that. Maybe for some person it's like, oh, I really need to have a family and this many children, but for some people it
mm,
might be more like assets. They might be like, but I think you should look for a goal that isn't just based off of um, materialistic things, because that's not actually a very high goal to aim at. You
mm,
should aim at living maybe a life that, I mean, if we could spend a whole hour conversating about this, but like, what is the highest possible goal? I think that would mainly be being a life that makes yourself happy, but maybe,
mm-hmm,
and not even happy, but let's say that fulfills you, but also fulfills other people.
yeah.
I'd say that's a good thing to aim at.
Mm-hmm,
And once you've taken the time to think about what that goal would be, you can start striving towards that goal, even if it's very small steps every day.
mm-hmm,
But yeah, I think as long as you're doing that in your life, you're doing well. So
yeah.
that's what my perspective has changed towards now. Instead of
Mm-hmm,
this whole focus perhaps on, I always thought like if I didn't end up being successful, like I'd end up looking at my life when I'm a lot older, I'd probably look back a bit disappointed.
mm-hmm,
But now I'm hoping that with this change of perspective, as long as I'm living out that, aiming at the highest possible goal. Also, if you bring in like religion and faith into that, it's basically living a life that brings glory to God.
mm-hmm.
That's also another great thing to bring into that. So if you're
Yeah.
living that kind of life, then by the time you reach your older years, you should be happy when you're looking back. You should be pleased with at least what you've done. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely quite a deep thing to get into, but I
It
think
is. Yeah.
it's something that crosses my mind quite a bit. So glad I could get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, thanks for the question. And yeah, it's been a great conversation that we could have on, like what's going on around life, what's going on in our lives as well, just like the little things and just like an update. So one final
Yeah,
question that I would like to ask you is, what would you say is the most valuable lesson that you've learned from getting like out of high school and to now being at a point where you're about to finish up your university journey?
sure. Very good stuff as well, man. Like you say, uh, I quite like what you said there. When someone asks you something, you say, "Oh, that's a good question." You're delaying a bit so you can think. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, no, it's very good stuff. I must say the last few years of my life have been very interesting. Learned a
Hmm.
lot. I think I'm definitely going to get into answering the question, but I think what's
Yeah.
been really cool has been having this YouTube channel where we've been able to speak about like a lot of the things that we've learned. I mean, that's what
Mm.
we've tried to do with Ben and Yesterdays. distill whatever knowledge and wisdom you and I have. We've tried to instill that in our videos.
Yeah.
But what comes to mind, the one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, I think, is that, you know, it's that idea almost that Hamza actually puts forward. And I'll expand on it a little bit, but it's basically just
Mm-hmm.
doing the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I've applied into my life over the last few years, and I think it was something that I didn't apply into my life during high school.
Before.
I
Mm-hmm.
kind of would go about things, if I felt like doing it, then I would do it. But if you didn't feel like doing it, then there was no need to. There was nothing compelling you.
Mm-hmm.
But now leaving high school, you have to start making your own money. You can't just do things when you feel like doing them, for example, because
You can't.
you realize
Yeah.
that no one's going to do stuff for you anymore. When you're younger, I think you could get away with it because like your parents would do things for you. Um, but now you can't get away with that kind of thing. So that would definitely be the biggest thing. And the way that I implement that rule into my life of doing the hard work, especially when you
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like it, is basically as soon as a thought comes into my mind of something that I need to do, I'll try and do it like right there and then.
Mm.
I don't. I've stopped procrastinating a lot more than I used to, and I think that's
Yeah.
just literally been the biggest change in my life. Has been because that's allowed me to be a lot more productive. It's allowed me to be a student, make money, like be involved in church, have a podcast. It's allowed me to do all of these things that I really want to do. But
Mm-hmm.
before, I probably wouldn't have thought it's possible because I'd always be thinking like, okay, I can do that work later. So yeah, that's definitely been the biggest thing for me, man. I know we've spoken about
Yeah.
that lesson actually before on this channel, but that is literally like when I think of the one piece of advice I could give to young people, it is that because oftentimes we spend so much time thinking about what we could be doing, but you should just
Mm-hmm.
be doing it, like putting in the hard work now. That's what your early 20s all about. I think, man. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't want to just be sitting around in these years because
Mm-mm.
then later on, then you're going to be having to put in the hard work. So rather do it now.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point, and
I'll
I
uh, I'll
can
save the same
sort of agree
question
with that as
for
well.
maybe another time, but we'll definitely
Yeah.
have to flip that one back on you sometime.
Yeah, no, definitely. I look forward to answering that. And yeah, man, no, it was really a great conversation, and yeah, always just like thrilled with the way we've been able to grow like these last couple of years, and yeah, proud of you, man, for striving to always be better than yesterday.
Same to you, brother. Yeah, no, it was good fun.
Thanks, man.
I'm keen to actually do a lot more episodes like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, on this channel, we're always speaking about ways to improve, but we haven't really dived into what's actually going in the world, like on right now. So I think it'll
Mm-hmm.
be cool to have these kind of conversations where we are including like what's going on and, what's happening in South Africa and Namibia today, and even the world around us. We can bring in those kind of elements, which will allow us to have, yeah, some very interesting conversations because life's
Mm-hmm.
always changing, the world's always moving. So yeah, looking forward to having some more of these, man. But thanks so much for the conversation. Hope everyone listening has had a good time listening to us. And
Yeah.
yeah, if you did, please consider subscribing to this channel. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.
All right. Cheers. Much love from BTY.